I was in friction with Christine. I was feeling guilt. I was still grieving but not giving myself space to grieve because every moment I had, I was still trying to build business. This was only a few weeks ago, right? I'm still trying to create more business and manage all the things and do all the things and say, look, in my businesses, because I have multiple and 3 of them are with other people, right? And so in one of them I say, well, look at all the things that I've just done. I've just had a baby, look at me. I wasn't saying that, but I was saying that.
Guys, are you showing up as the man that you want to be? Now, let's call a spade right now, because there is a lot of fluff out there when it comes to men's work and what it is that we need to be doing as men to show up as our best selves to be able to serve our families, friends, community, the world, and so on. And this is why I'm so happy to be sharing with you this episode with the amazing Stefanos. This guy is remarkable. I met him, it was like 4 or 5 years ago here in Bali, but we come together at his beautiful home in Austin, being able to snag some time with him for us to be able to really delve deep into it. So ladies, I know you're going to be able to get amazing value out of this episode. If you can share this with the men in your life that would think be able to get value out of this, I think that would just be incredible. That would put a huge smile on my dial. And if you are listening to this on the podcast, please join us over on the YouTube channel, because you'll see this is beautifully shot over at Stefanos's house. And also, if you can share this out on social as well, please do so. And please tag myself and Stefanos, as I would love to personally say thank you for you joining us in this episode. Let's start this here.
Yeah.
Becoming a father, how is it?
Well, all the things that you just said. I mean, for me, man, it's these equal amounts of joy, and I don't have words, yeah. Right? And then equal amounts of what is happening in my life. Because if I was to go a little deeper, with me personally, one of my greatest values is freedom, and one of my greatest wounds is freedom, or lack thereof. And so with this little beautiful bundle of everything coming into my world that I'm so attached to, maybe attached isn't the right way, I'm so drawn to, all my spare time, or whatever time I thought I had, or this concept of time, this illusion of time and space, just completely shattered. And it's made me more efficient in certain ways, but it's a grieving process, man. Like, I'm grieving vast amounts of freedom, like these chunks of freedom that I thought I had and were mine. Like, just 2.5, 3 months ago, just before she got pregnant, my life was very different. I could just drop everything and say, hey, Christine, I'm going here, I'm doing that, or I'm going here. Okay, imagine she wasn't pregnant, though, because at that final stage, I'm going here for a few days, or I'm going to go to the mountains I can't do that now. I mean, I can, but it's not very responsible. And it's not something that I want to do. I want to be close to her. I want to be close to both my girls. So it's a bit of a mind fuck, man. There's a lot of grief. There's some frustration and sadness. There's, am I getting it right? Am I present enough? Am I doing enough? Am I being enough? Am I supporting enough? Am I leading enough? Am I managing enough? Am I balancing? Am I harmonizing everything in my life enough? I mean, I can't imagine with 4 children. I mean, my good friend of mine has 4 children, but 4 under 4. But I just don't get it. It's a lot, and it's all beautifully rewarding as well. But it's tough, man. The grieving process is tough because I was just so accustomed, and I was having this conversation with Christine, like having children later in life. I'm 40. So much of my identity is forged, so much of my routine and my habits and my patterns are forged already. And so changing those just becomes a little more challenging. So that's been tough as well.
I really appreciate you sharing this. I think this is so it's interesting because over the last little while, I've been getting asked a lot of questions, and other men looking for advice, or either soon-to-be dads or newly dads. And I do feel like there's a lot of topics or things that aren't spoken about. And it's kind of like someone has to go underground to try and find this stuff out. So I do want to shine a light on it. I do want to bring it up into the open. When it comes to you, Steph, if I can maybe label it as like recreating an identity right now as a father and as a man and who you are and how you traverse through this plane right now, how are you trying to do that?
So initially, it's a great question. So initially, and I'm firstly just caveat on something. I'm super grateful that I'm so much more self-aware than I once was, as every year passes, that I can reflect on this very instantly or answer, respond to you because I've been reflecting on it. I've been sitting with it. Initially, it was let me do more. So much of my value for so many men is tied up in my productivity and my utility. So how much am I doing and how well am I doing it? In other words, how meaningful is the work that I'm doing? How impactful is it? And also, how much money am I making and all those things, right? And how much success am I? It's not just money, but how much success am I having? So if this is my goal, am I meeting those goals, right? And so when this baby comes, well, we had a discussion in our family with Christine and I that I'll take some time off. So I did. I took about 8 weeks off clients, which was a big thing for me. I hadn't done that for so long. But I still kept working, but I wanted to do more because I wasn't doing much compared to what I was doing. And so I started noticing my feelings of insignificance coming through, unworthiness, not being enough, not feeling enough, feeling like I don't matter in the world. Like I was even, my assistant posts on social media for me. I do all my content, but I've got content I've got literally 12 months worth of content if I post it every day. So, which I do post every day. And I wouldn't have to create another piece of content. So she just does that for me. But I was so disconnected from social media. I was in this bubble and this newborn, and I was just torn. And initially, it's like, well, let me forge this new identity by doing more. Let me take on new projects. Let me make sure that I'm doing this. Let me make sure that I'm building business still, even in the background, where every moment I can get, because I was deriving my significance from that. And I was hitting breaking points, man. I was stressed. I was in friction with Christine. I was feeling guilt. I was still grieving but not giving myself space to grieve, because every moment I had, I was still trying to build business. This was only a few weeks ago, right? I'm still trying to create more business and manage all the things and do all the things and say, look, in my businesses, because I have multiple and 3 of them are with other people, right? And so in one of them I say, well, look at all the things that I've just done. I've just had a baby, look at me. I wasn't saying that, but I was saying that, right? And so I said, fuck this, I'm done. And I took a step back. And I just literally did the bare minimum. And that was in April. Or mid-April, I should say, mid-April. And that month of April, within the space of a couple of days, it was one of my, it wasn't my highest grossing months, but it was a high, and I did nothing. Yeah. Like I did the least that I've done in years. Mm-hmm. And I looked at that and I go, that's interesting. So I went deep into that. And so I have taken on another project whilst I've had this beautiful baby. And I've also let a couple of things go. So I let more go than I took on, although the magnitude of this project's pretty big. However, I let more things go. And I'm doing a better job at letting things go. And that is part of how I'm able to forge this new identity and actually step into being a father. Because it still feels strange for me, Chris. I don't know about you, but it still feels strange for me to say I'm a father. It feels weird. And I can't explain it. And I'm being with that. I just don't have words yet around that. It just doesn't feel, I'm not saying it doesn't feel right, I don't know, maybe I haven't fully, I think I've embraced it. I feel that I've embodied it. It's just, I haven't caught up to it yet, to that reality. Yeah.
No, I love this, dude. And I think especially with my first Arlo, that was a tough time because I was setting up a business in Dubai. Lauren was pregnant for the last 3 months. Doing just with her parents back in Sydney, and I flew back a week before Lauren gave birth. I had 2 weeks together, and then I had to fly back to Dubai, get everything ready. Then they flew over, and then we started our lives together. And that was like, I don't recommend that to anyone. That was tough. That was character building for sure.
Oh yeah.
And I struggled for sure with, how do I show up as a father? How do I show up as a husband now, supporting my wife as a new mother? And yeah, that was really tough. And it's been very interesting when I reflect back to the times of post-birth after each fall, where the success of my businesses was so much better each and every time, where I really had no spare time when Arlo was born. when Sonny was born, I was able to take like a week off before I really had to get back into things. When Rumi was born, I could take like 4 weeks, and it was like really chilled. I remember sitting there, especially with Rumi's, and just being able to just be present with her and Lauren, and just be there, especially because Lauren, for the last 3 children's birth, had like a 40-day laying in period after each one.
Beautiful.
But then now with Noah, I was just like, I can step back, I can walk away. This is amazing. Like, this is all good. Like, the businesses are running with me doing 5, 6, 7 hours work a week, and I'm totally good with this stuff. So it's been very interesting going through that period, and that's where I think I want to be able to honour the men that have to navigate their circumstances right now through that period as well. So when it comes to you showing up as the man that you want to be, Steph, because this is something you're remarkable at, and I'm not blowing smoke up your ass, I genuinely mean this.
Thanks.
You really are dialed in on this so well. So when it comes to you showing up as the man that you want to be right now, what's your internal dialogue? Look at the amazing eagles flying out there.
Yeah, beautiful hawks
wow.
and yeah.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
Yeah, so every day.
As you showing up as the man that you want to be right now, what's your internal dialogue to making that happen, making that real?
Yeah, it's, you know, it's curiosity and exploration. So what I tend to begin with, and what I tend to like really look at, is what am I feeling moment to moment? And so what I mean by that is, when I say what am I feeling moment to moment, is am I deeply connected to the present moment, or am I wandering? And so when I'm with my daughter, am I really with her, or am I thinking about all the things that I need to do, right? Because that happens sometimes, all the things that I think I'd rather be doing, right? And equally, when I'm not with her, I'm using her as an example because she's just such this new anchor point in my life now, right? When I'm not with her, and I'm doing some work, whatever it is that I'm doing, working on my book or whatever, am I really in the book, or am I thinking about all the shit that I haven't done or need to do, or thinking about, is Christine okay? Like, are we okay? Like, how is she? Like, can I really just be present? So that internal dialogue for me is coming back into the present moment, and I'll use somatics to do that. So I'll use breath, or I exercise like yourself. You know, it's one of my highest values. You know, I was even thinking before when I heard you and Christine up here, I'm like, do I have time to sneak in a workout? When am I finished? So,
you want to get a bit of pump in.
I couldn't train this morning because, anyway, whatever. I had meetings and so forth, and I didn't feel like getting up at 3 a.m. to train. But yeah, that was my point. Anyway, so it's presence, and it's coming back to presence, and that has been very useful for me. But what accompanies that, and this is very new for me, new meaning I've been aware of it for the last few years, but really implementing it at a deeper level now, is the compassionate self-talk. And so can I be kind to myself during the process, and not quote unquote hate myself through it? Like, so not be angry at myself. I can say, okay, I've got to make that change, and I can motivate myself or inspire myself to take a different choice, make a different choice and take a different course of action. But what's the fuel behind that? Where's it coming from? And that's been very important to me. So just being mindful of that negative self-talk. Am I motivating myself through harshness, or am I inspiring myself through, you know, self-care and compassion, like that? And that's hard for me, man, because I grew up with very negative talk in my household, and very harsh, abrasive talk, and I can be that way. I can be that way towards Christine, I can be that way towards myself, I can be that way towards others. And that's been a lifelong journey, unraveling that, and I'm still getting better at it. You know, so that's been tough, and that's also been a focal point, not the self-talk, but the compassionate talk. Like the compassionate grace, having grace with self, not being so hard on myself. Because in the past, that has got me results, but it's got me results at a cost as well.
Yes.
My health, my sanity, relationships. It's reinforced old patterns of behavior and belief, such as, again, abrasiveness, emotional abuse, harshness, anger and aggressiveness, rage, frustration. It just doesn't serve me. You know, it doesn't serve anyone long term.
I loved how before you made the distinction between using the word balance and using the word harmonizing. I really liked how you corrected that and used harmonizing. So when it comes to harmonizing for a man to find equanimity between talk that's to themselves that has harshness that needs to push them and talk that might be compassionate that pulls them, how do you find that harmonization between the two?
I think one of the greatest things that men can do, and one of the greatest things that I've done, is, in one word, practice. But let me expand on that, obviously. And so if we place you use a really powerful term, equanimity. I love that term. If we place ourselves, for me, equanimity is chaos, calm in the face of chaos, so to speak, right? At some level, it's more robust and complex than that, but calm in the face of chaos. And so to become calm in the face of chaos, what do we need to do? We need to expose ourselves to chaos or to difficulty or to challenge. And so when we are proactive, and this is the key here, whenever I'm reactive, it's not as pertinent, it's not as powerful. The movement through, or the transition through growth, isn't as potent, right? And so for me, when we are proactive and deliberate with placing ourselves in chaos or difficulty or challenge, whether that's having a difficult conversation in your relationship, whether that's having a hard conversation with one of your employees, whether that's saying, you know what, I can't live in this place anymore, I need to move. Whether that's literally just getting up and doing a cold plunge every day because you know that's really good for you, but you also know it's really scary. Whatever it is for you, the thing that often we avoid, that is difficult, that we know we should do, lean into that thing. So practice becoming equanimity itself by exposing ourselves to those difficulties. So what do I do in my world? I expose myself to challenges, whether it's physical training, cold expo. I've got a cold tub. I'm going to give these guys a plug because they're awesome. Jason at Morosco, best cold plunge we've ever had.
Amazing.
Worth every cent. Whether it's that or whether it's, okay, looking at my life and looking at my business and saying, I want to do all the things. I can't do all the things. I just can't do all the things, but I want to do all the things. I don't want to miss out. Well, where's that feeling of missing out coming from? Let me do some inner work around that. Now, during that process, am I observing myself talk? Because am I being angry towards myself? Am I being demeaning towards myself? Am I punishing myself like my father used to? Or bullies that used to bully me used to? Or am I talking to myself and with myself in more compassionate, open ways? And so I'm observing that. But I'm doing difficult things proactively in my life so that when life happens for us or to us, or whatever verbiage you want to use, but when it happens unknowingly to us, we are more prepared. It's like, what do you do to study for an exam? Well, you study the thing that's meant to be in the exam, so you're more prepared. I'm studying, placing myself in situations that is asking me to be more in equanimity. So practice is and that's sort of a long way of saying that, but practice for me, so men, practice.
No, I love that. And I think what I pick up as well is you don't rise to the level of your expectation, you fall to the level of the training that you continue to put yourself in. Truth.
I always say I'm a few seconds away from a zombie apocalypse. Ready.
Yeah.
Just a few seconds away.
Yeah, I like that. No, I do. I really do like that. I think that's where, because I journal on this often, and especially when I set the intention for today, and one of the key points of my intention for today was to be equanimous. And for me, I get the vision of a mountain sitting there, and the storm can rage around it, but the mountain sits there and
it doesn't move.
It doesn't move. It takes it. It cops it on the chin, so to speak, and does what it needs to be able to do. And so I really am interested to know, Steph, when it comes to the advice that's getting given today for men to be men, what is it that you don't agree with?
I think, the plight of the dangerous man is one that is overseen, right? Men need to be dangerous. I'm going to obviously pull that thread, right? So I think some of the advice, and there's so much advice that's out there, there's a spectrum of advice that's out there in terms of how men should be in context of this question, about how should we be as men. For me, I'm very mindful of never giving advice about how to be a particular way, although I like to offer ways of being, and if it resonates with you, then hey, you can take it, right? And you can take aspects of it. And this question of what is happening in the world with respect to men, and I'm going to come back to the dangerous man piece in a moment, but Jack Donovan is an author in the men's space, and he speaks very specifically to, there is the question of what does it mean to be a good man, and then there's obviously advice around that, right? And that's a more subjective way of seeing the world. And then there's, what does it mean to be good at being a man? Two quite different questions. And so the way we look at that, one is more subjective, one's a little more objective, although there's obviously subjective elements to it. But one is grounded more in, say, evolution and how we've evolved as men, like how we've evolved in society, but how we've evolved in bands of brotherhood, and how we've evolved with our ecology and our environment. And we look at how we've behaved and how that affects us hormonally and physiologically, and then the interplay between that and our psychology, our social psychology and our quote-unquote individual psychology, and then the collective unconscious as well, because there's layers on top of that. Because when we look at evolution, we don't just look at where we've come from, but we've got to look at the progress since then as well, like the advent of language, the development of the prefrontal cortex, higher and deeper levels of socialization. I've mentioned linguistics, but also fire, technology, eating habits changing, environments changing, people understanding themselves deeper, maybe through the discovery of psychotropic plants. You know, that's a very real theory that 12,000 years ago, somewhere there, we discovered, or even before, we discovered psychotropic plants, and that enhanced and evolved our consciousness, which expanded society massively, right? Including technology. So we look at all these factors that have taken place more recently, and then also who were we as hominoids millions of years ago, and we look at what men used to do. And so what made men good at being men? Well, we look at the protector energy, right? We look at strength, we look at mastery, we look at courage, we look at honor, these principles that what Jack Donovan says is this is what it means to be good at being a man. So I look at them and I think, well, okay, well, that's valuable to me, and I can make the connection between how we've evolved, how we've survived, how we've extended the perimeter and protected the perimeter, how we've hunted, how we've protected those that we love and care for, how we've provided in that sense. And it's not to say that men are the only ones that provide and women don't. We just do it in a particular way. And what he is saying, I guesstimate, because I haven't heard him say this directly, what I'm sensing is that how we were is fundamentally at some level a big part, or at least a significant enough part of who we still are today. So why don't we get being good at being a man, and we look at those four tenets, courage, mastery, honor, strength, and we look at those four tenets. I had a connectivity to that because of the socialization piece, and how that's been a massive growth edge for humanity is actually our ability to socialize in the way that we do. And we look at those 5 tenets and we say, well, what if we focus on those as being a man? Which is, as to me, to be a man, I'm just going to focus on where can I apply more courage in my life? Where can I have more mastery with my hands? Where can I create an honor code amongst my brothers? In other words, I have to forge close friendships to do that. Well, let's unpack that a little bit, because to forge close friendship, you've got to be real. You can't be fake. You can't withhold, because people feel that through their nervous systems, through their own neuroception. If you're talking shit to me, and unless you're a pathological liar, but even then, we'll feel something. We just will probably ignore it. So we have to be real with each other. To be real with each other, we have to unpack our own shit. That means we have to address our traumas. That's another thing as well. Like the advent of language and the advent of socialization also brought in the advent of more trauma, right? Deeper levels of trauma, more complex trauma, more unconscious trauma interwoven in the psyche that we didn't experience maybe millions of years ago, hundreds of thousands of years ago, because that complexity wasn't there, right? And so I want to pull that thread. I want to pull that thread of, for you to be honorable in your relationships, you have to know yourself. To know yourself, you have to explore yourself. To explore yourself, you can't just cherry pick all the nice parts, all the parts that are convenient, all the parts that look good to society. Your charm, or your good looks, or your ability to perform, or your utility, or look at you, you're a senior manager here. No, not all the good things, but all the things that you don't like about yourself, like the anger, or the fact that you abused someone when you were younger, or the fact that you were maybe sexually abused. And you have to unpack that. And how do you do that in a way that's healing for you? We've got to look at all that stuff. Otherwise, we can't bring all of ourselves into a relationship. Now, side note, I'm not saying you have to be fully you in every encounter you have. You can reserve whatever you want to reserve for whatever specific relationship, but do it from a place of being proactive and deliberate because you're making that choice consciously or with awareness. You're not driven by pain that you're holding it back.
Yes.
So for me, when we're talking about being a man, let's look at our origins. Let's look at how we evolved in brotherhood, because one of the epidemics of men today, right? Here's a statistic. This fucking kills me, man. It was specific to black youth in America. From 10 to 14, do you know the second biggest cause of death?
I don't want you to say suicide.
It is. 10 to 14. 10 to 14. 10 years old. 14 years of age. Second greatest cause of death is suicide. Now, I'm across most of these statistics. That really blew me away. And it's quite high for other age ranges as well.
That's fucked.
Really, it is. And so when we look at that, we look at the isolation, the loneliness that's associated with that. And we look at how that has become an epidemic for male adult friendships, or lack thereof. Real intimate connections. Especially Australian culture. Don't even get me started on Australian culture, man. I'm so far from patriotic and a nationalist right now. It's not funny. And I'm okay with that, but I have my own feelings about Australia because I have my own feelings about Australia at the moment. And Australia is very dear to me, and that's why I have my own feelings about Australia. Geopolitically, culturally, being removed.
How long have you been an expatriate for?
4 years.
Yeah, I've been an expat for 10 years now.
Yeah.
And I feel you.
Yeah. And there's so much beauty about Australia as well. Anyway, I don't want to go on that tangent, but back to your question about men. So for me, I really believe that's a strong starting point for men, sovereign beings, to evaluate and look into and feel into their own lives. I wonder how this mastery thing, how me working with my hands, how me building something, how me being creative in the world in the way that I can be as a man. Because let's face it, at some level, in the collective unconscious of mankind, there is, I don't want to say a jealousy, but an insecurity and an inadequacy. Because you look at women, you look at the female body, look at what she does. Yeah. She births life into this fucking world. Like, of course we contribute to that, and it wouldn't happen without us. Yeah. Sure, I'll take that. But look at what they do. Look at what happens in their bodies. I mean, at some level, unconsciously, there's an inadequacy or insecurity that we carry. And so what do we do with anything that's a shadow or an insecurity or inadequacy? We have to compensate for that in the psyche. So we'll try and do bigger and better things, or we'll demean, or we'll oppress, or we'll suppress, or we'll repress, or we'll coerce, or we'll control, or we'll manipulate, and we'll do those things. And so as a man, can you look at the areas of your life where you don't carry honor, or you don't have mastery, or you don't have courage, or you don't have friendships, right? Or you don't have strength? I think it's a basic thing for every fucking man to be competent and able, adept in their body. I'm not saying you have to hold the biggest deadlift in the world or in your region, or you have to be able to run a mile in under 5 minutes or any of that shit. I'm just saying, can you be adept in your body? When I said to you, I'm 10 seconds away or a few seconds away from a zombie apocalypse, what I mean is I have faith and trust in my body that if for whatever reason I had to mobilize my family right now on foot, and I had to carry my go bag, and I put a 25 kilo back on my pack, I'll carry my baby, I'll carry the pack, I'll carry my wife if I need to, and I know I can do it. Yeah. I'm not saying people have to train to that extreme. I have my reasons why I train like that, right? Most are vested in really quite healthy reasons. Some are not. Yeah. They're old patterns, right? Yeah. Some things are hard to die. But for every man to feel competent in their body, man, the relational effect that has in romantic partnership and sexuality, the confidence that is perceived by another person when they see that man with an erect posture, a lengthened posture with not arrogance but confidence in their being, that also symbolizes hard work, dedication, commitment. Man, go and exercise, man. Be strong in your body, whatever strength looks like for you, and be versatile and robust. That to me, like when I hear Jack Donovan say how important strength is for a man, I get it. You know, you built your business around health and wellness and fitness. You know what it's about. You know how important strength is. Who was this said this? I think it was Ripito, Mark Ripito. Stronger people are harder to kill. Again, there's something in there, not because we're in a war, because we're more resilient. What happens when we're more resilient? We can tolerate more. if we can tolerate more in times that we talk about equanimity now, like we can be calmer in the face of chaos. Well, what does that mean? That means we can be more creative, we can be more open, we can be more spacious in our bodies. We can be more loving because we're not in fucking panic and we're not retracted, we're not in a reactive sympathetic nervous system response because we carry equanimity. Why? Because we purposely, deliberately, proactively expose ourselves to things that are difficult. So when Jack Donovan says that, I'm like, forget about what it does it mean to be good at, forget about what it means to be a good man, because everyone's going to have a different definition of that, based on their values, on their hierarchy of values, on their cultural upbringing, on which country, which area they come from, their religion, the value sets of that society, media. There are multiple, almost infinite inputs that will say, what does it mean to be a good man? Because I promise you now, people that are part of white supremacist groups, as an example, that go and kill other people that aren't like their race, by those white supremacist groups, they're considered to be heroes. They're considered to be good men. By other groups, they're not. Similar to the individual that is a suicide bomber. To his cult or his religion or his whatever, he's a good man.
Agreed.
He's going to heaven. He's doing God's work. To the hundreds of people that he just killed and the families, he's not a good man. And so it's not about good, bad, wrong, right. It's about fundamentally, I really like this question. And this is a question for every man that's listening. What does it mean to be good at being a man for you? So if you don't know, cool. There are thousands of books out there and thousands of teachers that you can start to pull information from and do your own fucking work. Figure it out yourself, because you know what? Again, you're a sovereign being. I'm not going to tell you what is for you to do. I can tell you what works for me. I can tell you what has worked for many, many thousands of men that I've worked with. It's different for most of them. There are some fundamental truths that I'm alluding to, but figure it out yourself. Make it true for you. Direct knowledge. The mystics say direct experience is the, paraphrasing, is the best experience.
What I love that you put down that I always want to pick up is the responsibility taking. That is what's involved with all of it. And I think that's something that's just, we need to hear more of. And what's the biggest challenge you're facing right now? And more importantly, how do you want to overcome it?
I think the biggest challenge I'm facing right now is this new identity and the forging of that new identity and the responsibility. It's an interesting word, responsibility. I watched a very short documentary on responsibility, and the gentleman broke down the word responsibility. And he broke down the word responsibility. And if you look at it, it's response and ability, and our ability to respond.
Yeah.
And I think, how much of my life, currently, forget about the past, just currently, am I being reactive? And so I'm sitting with that. I'm sitting with that challenge of identity shift. Still feeling very worthy in the world, feeling very connected in the world, feeling very wanting to be in the world and give my gifts and share and impact and support and all those things, but also having a newborn that requires so much energy and attention because she's growing, right? Like she's growing through her body. She's just come into this world, and it's really, and it's not balancing that. It's finding peace and equanimity in that, right? And that is definitely a challenge, man. And I guess what's even, as I'm reflecting on it, what's even more of a challenge is the guilt, Chris. Is like I get to the end of the day, and it's, did I spend enough time with my daughter today, or did I do enough of what I needed to do today? Like my productivity, my work, my contribution, whatever, right? I call it work, it doesn't really feel like work, but yeah. And that's a struggle, that's a struggle piece. Like even this morning, right? I'll give you a very real, vulnerable example. I was at my computer, I woke up, and I just started doing some things I needed to do, particularly writing my book, right? Finishing my book, I should say. And I get a message from Christine, because she was sleeping with a little one in the bed, and she says, "Hey, are you awake? Can you come in? I need you." And you know, she's just going through her own challenges as being a mother, right? A new mother. And so I was with them, and I was there, and the little one was sleeping, and we were there for about an hour and a half. And then I got out of that, and then, you know, started doing some things and getting my day started. And what happened? I started thinking about, damn, I just had an hour and a half that I was just laying there, and I know I know she needed me, and I obviously want to hold her because she's going through her stuff, and I could have got this done, and now when am I going to do it? And then the layer of guilt. Well, hold on a second. Why am I? I feel guilty that I'm not there for my wife. I was there for my wife, but so, bro, that back and forth, like I'm this endless ping pong player.
I respect, love, and appreciate you sharing that, Steph. It is. You're a remarkable man. You're a remarkable human.
Thanks, man.
And I think this is really important. This is super important. I'm so happy that we get to share this because, fuck me, people don't. And I think it's really cool, and you're doing a great job, dude.
Thank you, man.
I appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
If I may ask of a commitment for you, next time I'm back here, can we go for round 2?
100%.
Done.
Yeah.
All right, I appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely.
When's the book going to be done?
September 20th. Oh, well, it should be released September 20th.
All right,
I have it done by
I'll
then.
be back before then, so then if we can make the next one, I want to focus on that, and then we can launch it for when the book comes out as well.
That'd be awesome, man. Yeah. I'm very excited about the book. It's going to be a deep expression of my life's work. Condensed, but yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, dude. Thanks so much for taking the time out for us to have this conversation.
Brother. Thank you.